What's up, everybody? I am in the studio. I'm not coming at you today as one fun guy. I started a new YouTube channel called Guns and Watches. It was my handle before I became one fun guy. I talked about it a little bit on my previous live that I posted, but I thought what I would do is kind of do an intro to the Guns and Watches channel. I realized that I didn't change the name moniker on my thing. I'm still One Fun Guy Podcast, which I still am. But my new YouTube channel is called Guns and Watches, guys. So what I'm doing is I'm just hanging out. So I have my Black Rifle coffee. It's Saturday morning, about 9 o'clock. What I figured I would do is do my first watch review. And I bought it. I showed it the other night on TikTok when I was live. I was just hanging out. I said I'm going to try to implement the Guns and Watches channel and get it up and running. So basically, guys, what I'm going to do is kind of do watch reviews and, pew pew reviews. If I can, with YouTube being the way that it is, I don't know how I'm going to do with that. However, I figured since I had my channel before was Guns and Watches, that I would do that. Now, obviously, I can't change my entire studio setup to do that for the Guns and Watches, but my new YouTube channel is at Guns and Watches -10. So it's Guns and Watches -10. It is scrolling at the bottom of this. So if you can go and subscribe to that channel, that's going to be great. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I figure I'm just going to unbox this. It is difficult because I have my camera set up as a podcast style, right? So it's me. It's going to be hard to flip the camera around to show you. So I don't know how I'm going to do this other than just kind of opening it up in front of you and showing you what it is. So today I have the new TWSTEEL watch. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the brand before I get into it, just so you guys have a background of what I'm opening and what I'm doing, right? So TWSTEEL is a Dutch company. They use a Taiwanese movement in their watches. It's kind of cool because they are known for their bigger style of watches. They kind of took the Panerai approach and they make 47, 48, 52 millimeter watches, which are big, right? There's a lot of companies that do that. I previously worked security at a jewelry store, and that's how I got into the TWSTEEL brand. They have a really famous sponsor, Dario Franchitti, who's in the F1 world. They've done some watches with Renault. They sponsored one of them in 2010. You see them all over the F1 races and the banners. Obviously, you see the Rolexes and the Omega. Omega is the official timekeeper of F1 racing. But you see Tissot T and you see TWSTEEL. So they did get into the Lotus F1 team. They had Tom Colonel was their driver. Like I said, Dario Franchitti wears their watches. Mitchell Niedermeyer, Nick Doohan, they all kind of did that. They actually teamed with a Daytona watch they made an F1 watch, which is actually really cool. So they have some heritage. They've been around since 2005. So it's not that long in the watch world, but when you do something good and you do something right, I feel it's a high value dollar for what you get for a watch. Part of my channel is going to be the fact that, I do have some higher end watches and I will show those and showcase them on the channel. But I'd like to start with like entry level watches that look good, but don't break the bank for a lot of people. I do have a few Seikos. I showed the one that my buddy Adam did. He owns Jadian watches. He's a watchmaker. So I have some watches that obviously I will show as the channel continues to grow. I figured I would do this now. This was a great steal. Ashford had it on sale for Black Friday for a very, very reasonable price. It was sub $100. I'm going on the TWSTEEL website now just to kind of show you their heritage in racing. So you guys could see this is obviously, I'll pin it and I'll try to post it, guys. I want to have a secondary screen behind me where I can show you all this. I haven't gotten to that yet. So just bear with me. The channel's new. It's still growing. TWSTEEL does have a high selection of heritage watches with the F1 racing. Some of their designs, are race inspired. Obviously, they've done some collaborations. So these are some of their models. And like I said, I'll go into the movements and stuff like that and what they have. Obviously, guys, like I said, I'm pretty much, this is my first one, so bear with me. I'm trying not to do the screen and screen. I want to do that down the road. I just don't have that ability right now to do that. So I apologize in advance, guys. I'm trying to find the model here. I should have probably prepped more, but just bear with me a little bit here. I'm trying to find the exact make and model of the watch so I can give you the specs. Obviously, like I said, I should have probably done this all in the pre-planning, but I just decided that I was going to go with it and just kind of show off the watch. And then I realized, well, I probably should have, some specs and stuff like that. And I didn't really do my homework, guys. I should have. I apologize. I'm kind of doing it now as we're kind of floating in. I will find the watch and kind of just go from there and tell you what it is and go from there. It's a very good value for the watch I'm getting. It's a Maverick is the model number. It's a, like I said, it's a I wouldn't consider it a luxury timepiece by any chance. It does look good though, and that's kind of where I have my mindset is that, I want to find watches that are affordable. If I ever get a gift or I get one, I would be more than happy to, show you guys, how I did it and what I've done. This isn't playing nice with me. I see the watch, I'm clicking on it and it's not coming up. So I don't know what to do. And I'm live, so obviously it's gonna be a unedited video, but I'm trying to get this and it's not popping up for whatever reason. Let's see if this is it. Like I said, guys, I apologize if you're watching this. Bear with me. It's my first one. I'm trying to be professional as I can. This is obviously the watch that I got. I didn't pay that price for it. I'll just give you some specs. It's a Seiko NH35 movement. It's got a reinforced mineral crystal. It's a 48 millimeter. I went with the cream face. It has a 21,600 VPH movement. That is a automatic movement. It is water resistant up to 10 ATMs, which is about 150 feet, I believe. It is automatic. TWSTEEL does offer a 2-year warranty on the watch. So it is really kind of cool. But let me go ahead and unbox it. I'll show you the watch, guys. I'm taking it out of the box for the first time. So this is the case. And then here is the unveil of the watch. It's wrapped in some bubble wrap here, guys. Let me take it out. So it is a hefty watch, guys. If you are a bigger guy and you have a bigger wrist, this is it. This is the movement in the back. It is automatic. It does have a screw down crown. It does have the date, not the day. So it is not a day date. It's just the date. The movement does hack, so it will stop the second hand when you're using the watch. The screw down crown does feel pretty good. It's not a cheap watch by any stretch of the imagination. It's stainless steel. I don't know what kind of steel they use. These aren't any type of rare ones. I got the cream face just because I don't have it. I know there is a little bit of lume on the handles. I don't know how bright that is. I haven't tested that out yet. But, for somebody who's looking for a nicer dress watch with a mesh bracelet, it does have the strap that clasps in, kind of like the Omega does. I obviously haven't set it to my size yet. I will do that and put it on. It takes some finesse to get the buckle out to put the strap in through it. It does have a deployment clasp, so once you set it, it's good. You don't have to keep taking it on and off. So the deployment clasp, when it works, does do this, and then you press the button, it unhinges. So this is the TWSTEEL Maverick, guys. I'm going to show a video out and about with it and vlogging. This is kind of like the initial unboxing. I can't give you the first impressions yet because I don't have any. I just took it out of the box. I know there are some YouTubers that I watch, guys. Teddy Beltazar, Fat Cat from Fat Cat Collections. He does kind of like the budget watches. He does like the Nubios, the Invictas, the Androids, the Aragons. He kind of has that niche in it. I am just going to look at watches that I have and watches that I like, that I think are affordable and reasonable and look good. Obviously, I have a big watch collection. I bought some stuff through my teens and my 20s and my early 30s, right? When money, was kind of tight, but I was always kind of a watch fan. So I do have some stuff in my collection that is budgeted, right? I do have some Casios that are nice, but now over time they have some value, right? It's ones that I bought, one, 25, 30 years ago now are worth a little bit of something, right? So it doesn't have to be a collection per se of elegance, right? There's producer Michael, and there's a lot of other channels out there, Kevin O'Leary, Mark Wahlberg, right? They all have watch channels where you can see $100,000 and plus watches, right? They wear Jacob and Company, and they have all these high ends, which is awesome, right? If you have the money and the financial means to do that, by all stretch, buy what you want, right? If you walked into a jewelry store and wanted to buy a $200,000 Audemars Piguet and you could afford it, by all means, buy it. Most of the blue collar people like myself that go to work every day and have to save money and put things aside can't afford that, right? A stretch for us might be an Omega or a Breitling or a low end Rolex, right? Where you might save a few $1,000s and then something else comes up where you have to spend that money on something else and then the watch goes away. So I'm trying to just be a more budget friendly, activist for good watches. You do find some really good bargains though at sometimes. The MSRP on this is $649 or like $689 or something like that. Would I have ever spent $700 for this watch? No, but you can find good value at a reasonable rate, right? That's obviously on TWSTEEL's website. That's a full value price for a nice watch. You can find them on the, market. I bought this brand new from Ashford. Like I said, sub $100. So I think with shipping and tax and everything, it came to $92 or something like that. It was a Black Friday special. So I pulled the trigger on it. It's a very good looking watch. It seems solidly made. I am familiar with the TWSTEEL brand. They do have some higher end watches that are into the thousands. But this is kind of like an entry level budget watch, but it looks fantastic. So if you put this on your wrist, it's going to catch some views, right? People are going to be like, what are you wearing, right? I'm not knocking the TWSTEEL brand. I love F1 racing. I love MotoGP. They are very, into that heritage now. So like I said, being a younger brand, they don't have the early 1900s or the late 1800s as some of the watch brands do, like your Tissot T's and your Omegas and your Breitlings. They have extremely deep watch heritage, but there's nothing wrong with starting up a brand that is new. Now, I went to Wind Up Chicago for the past 2 years. I plan on going again this year. I've had Greg, he goes by Greg Watchman on Instagram. So if you follow Greg, he's been a guest on my podcast before. We talked watches. We talked everything about, what heritage watches are, what, good values are, right? I want to try to bring a good value piece that is something that I would wear and have in my collection, right? Now, this is not obviously a heritage piece, right? This isn't something that you would hand down generationally unless somebody wanted it, right? But it is a nice timepiece for the price. Um, it's not like I buy a new watch every week or every month or anything like that. Hopefully I can grow the channel where I can start getting some big followers in it, right? That would be my goal, is to eventually have people send me watches, right? And review them and maybe get to keep them, and, start rubbing elbows with people. When I go to wind up, I'll obviously go live and I'll try to figure out the best watches there. I showed everybody around last year, but maybe I'll start to rub some elbows and maybe try to get some guests on the podcast, right? Um, I would love to have one day, guys. I've said this before, from my One Fun Guy podcast, right? I would love to have a studio, right? And I would love to have a dual wall, right? Where, like, one, I could do the One Fun Guy podcast and face chairs a certain way and record this way, and then have the Guns and Watches channel on the other one, right? Where I can flip the camera the other way, and the other wall has all my Guns and Watches stuff. It's obviously going to be impossible to change the background, but that's why I said I kind of one day would love to have a TV behind me. So to fill in the background of the space behind me would be a TV. I could put the Guns and Watches background on when I'm doing that. I could put the One Fun Guy podcast when I'm doing that. I'm just trying to do things, guys, creatively that excite me, right? I want to start, doing vlog style traveling stuff where I take you guys with me on adventures to grab, coffee at a new spot. Or, I love doing that. And I figured, since I'm in the public eye already with the One Fun Guy podcast, which has been, continuing to grow strong and strong and strong, that I reinvented myself with the One Fun Guy podcast. But before I had this name trademarked, I was the Guns and Watches was my handle, and I changed that all to the One Fun Guy podcast, so I wouldn't have to create a new YouTube channel. I just kind of switched everything, and now 2 years into it, I was like, well, when I do watch reviews, or I do gun reviews, or I do any of that stuff, I could use the Guns and Watches moniker that I had. So I created a new YouTube channel, that's going on the bottom of the screen here, scrolling down, which is Guns and Watches. So if you go to Guns and Watches -10, that's my thing. Obviously, I need to change the logo. I'm still using the One Fun Guy podcast logo for that, which the podcast isn't going anywhere, guys. Like, that's my goal, is to make that, my career post my career now, right? So that's the ultimate dream, is to have enough, following behind that, where that makes myself move into, monetarily gaining myself into the future. So that's my goal, right? Those are my dreams of the podcast. The Guns and Watches channel was just something I had before that, because I used to watch YouTube videos all the times on Guns and Watches, right? Truck reviews, things like that, different product reviews. But if I was on YouTube, 99% of the stuff I would watch would be gun reviews and watch reviews. And so I started, when I would reply to somebody or I'd respond to somebody, that would be my handle. So I brought it back. So the Guns and Watches podcast now is up and running. I do need to create a logo, so I might use AI's help for that. But that was my original handle on my YouTube channel all the way back when I started it, probably in 2006 or 2007, when I first started watching YouTube, and I didn't have any followers. I was just watching it, right? And so my handle always was Guns and Watches. That was kind of my thing. That name's not trademarked. I'm sure other people are using it. I hope I don't get in trouble. That's why I did the -10. But I obviously, was always a fan of both of those things, right? And so obviously I played a little bit on the Guns N' Roses, right? They're one of my favorite bands. So I, became Guns and Watches, and I've had that forever. Now that I'm actually posting stuff on it, I don't know. We'll see if somebody says, hey, that's my name, you can't use it, then, I'll figure that out. But as of right now, I don't think anybody else is using that specific handle. So like I said, I'm going with it. So this was my first one, guys. It was kind of rocky, right? I'll be more prepared next time, but I'd love to talk about some watches that I have in my collection. I'd love to talk about some watches that I would love to have in my collection. You know, I always joked around that if I ever, you know, financially won a big sum of money, right? Um, the, you know, I'm a car guy, but I wouldn't have 10 cars, but I would have a pretty nice luxury watch collection. That would be the first thing I would do, right? Is buy myself a nice watch, you know, and go from there. So again, it's dreams, right? It's hopes, it's ambitions, putting it out into the world, right? Stating what you want to do, right? I'm a big advocate for writing things down and manifesting them, right? Um, I've grown my YouTube channel for the One Fun Guy podcast. I'm trying to grow the Guns and Watches channel. Doing both is going to be hard. I'm just kind of hanging out, like I said, on a Saturday morning. I don't have anything to do, so I figured I would do the unboxing of the TWSTEEL watch. You know, mechanically, like I said, I'll wear it around. I have to adjust the band and put it on. I'll wear it the next few weeks, and I'll come back and I'll actually give a review if you should buy it. As of right now, like I said, it is a very well built watch. It's a steel watch. TWSTEEL does have a branding. You know, they're not a nobody in the name of watches. People know who they are, with the racings and stuff like that. They do have a few big sponsors, right? Dario Franchitti, who is in the MotoGP world and the F1 world, is well known, right, as a race car driver. You see him wearing TWSTEEL a lot. He's one of their corporate sponsors. So they do have some, you know, skin in the game, as they say. Is it as big as some of the other brands? No, but they're doing their best, just like we're all doing our best. So, you know, if you don't like TWSTEEL or you think it's junk or it's garbage, right? That's your opinion, right? I can't change that. But if you've never heard of the brand and you're looking for a nice, attractive, bigger watch, this is 48 millimeter, that you could wear dressed up or out on a casual night somewhere, and you don't want to spend $2,000 or $3,000, this watch could be had sub $100. It was ashford.com. They sell all kinds of stuff. I just happened to come across this, and what really caught my eye is this kind of cream beige dial. I don't have any of those. This is a pretty simplistic watch. There's no chronograph function on it. It's just a nice looking, appealing watch for less than $100, which is hard to find, you know, and I think it's a good value for the dollar. I'm going to wear it the next few weeks. And like I said, I'll come back and give you my honest impression if you should buy it and spend your $100 on it, or if you should put it towards something else. There are a lot of good brands out there, right? Tissot is a great one. They're a very good intro to high-end watches. They have a very well-known namesake. They make some very good watches. Citizen is the same way. Seiko is the same way. If you're trying to look at building a watch collection and you ask most of the people when they didn't have the money they had what watches they were wearing, a lot of them will tell you, I had a Timex, I had a Seiko, I had a Citizen. They make great watches at a very reasonable price. Now, some of the Citizens are up into the thousands of dollars. Same with Seiko, same with Tissot, right? But they do have some watches that are sub $500, some that are sub $300. You're probably not going to find them sub $200 unless they're on the gray market, which is the used, well taken care of market. But they could be had, right? Go to Facebook Marketplace and see what's out there, right? See what people are selling in your area. See what's out there. If you're starting, if you know, there's some people that never wear watches, so this video's not going to be for them, right? There's some people that are very well off that are going to snuff at me and say, why don't you just buy a Rolex? Why don't you just buy an Omega? Why don't you just buy a Breitling? Why don't you just, well, yeah, that's all great, right? You can go. If I had 10 grand to buy a watch, I'd probably start looking at Grand Seiko. I'd start looking at Omega, right? I'd start looking at those brands. I don't have that, right? But if I had $100,000 to spend on a watch, right, and it was like me or you or the rest of the working class people that, you know, some people $100,000 is like $100 to us, right? They can go and buy a watch every month and spend that kind of money, which is awesome. They've earned it. They deserve it. Why not? You only live once, right? Buy what makes you happy. But this channel is kind of aimed at the, you know, people that have real responsibilities in life and work hard for their money, but also might want to buy something to spoil themselves. And, you know, I'm trying to find value for watches, right? I have a few over the next few weeks and months. I'll show you my collection. I'll introduce you to some of those. Like I said, Adam is a great one, right? For a few $100, he can build you a watch. Put whatever you want on it, right? You can make a custom watch with him. Adam is good. I don't know if he's taking orders. I know a lot of times they get busy, but there are other watchmakers out there that are very good at what they do, that for a few $100s can make you whatever you want, whether you want it to be a Seiko based movement, a citizen based movement. They can kind of find dials and watch faces and kind of make your own, and now you have a custom watch that nobody else would have. It's a one of one, right? So those are different options that you could have as well. So in the watchmaking world and in the watchmaking scene, there are a lot of independent places. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook, find them, type in watchmakers, right? See what's out there. See what brands are catching your eye, right? Obviously, you can buy some heritage watches, some vintage watches, on eBay and some other places where, you can get them for a few $100s, but it has the namesake, right? You can find a vintage Omega, a vintage Breitling, a vintage Rolex, right? Some of them aren't that expensive, or what I would consider expensive, right? If I was in that kind of market. So there's watches to be had for everybody. It's the art of the hunt, right? Tracing down what you want to see. It's the art of finding what appeals to you, the size, right? I always joke around with some people because small watches just don't look good on me, right? My sweet spot is between 42 and 50 millimeters, right? I could pull off a 47 or 48 millimeter watch, like a smaller person could find, a 38 or a 39 millimeter watch. So I like the bigger watches and I like the ones that look good. So like I said, that's where this TWSTEEL comes in handy. This is 48 millimeters, not including the crown. So it is a heftier watch. Now I could drape it on my wrist so you guys could see what it would look like. Obviously I haven't put the buckle on it, but like I said, for me, this is a very appealing watch. And I would be happy to wear this out, and I'm going to wear it. I'll put it through its paces. Obviously, I'm not going to beat it up and torture test it. I'm not going to, go diving in it and see, how, deep I can go before it cracks and breaks, right? I'm not going to do that, but I'll run it underwater. It's got 10 ATM of water resistance, right? So you're washing your hands at work, you splash the watch, right? You're in the shower, you want to clean it off and let the steam hit it. You can do that. Take it in a pool, you'd be fine. You don't have to worry about that, right? But I'm not going to go diving with it and test its capabilities and see where it's at. I'll wear it, right? I don't want to obviously, crack the crystal or anything like that. It's a very strong watch. I don't think you're going to do that with this. It's very well made. But I'll wear it for a couple weeks, see how it feels. Is it comfortable? Does it wear well? Does it keep pretty accurate time, right? Plus or minus 30 seconds a month is the average for a watch, right? There's some watchmakers out there that the average is 1 second a month, right? But you're paying for those movements, right? Those are very accurate, very high-end movements. This is a NH35 Seiko movement, which is one of the strongest movements in the watchmaking world. A lot of brands will use the NH35 movement because it's tried and tested, right? It's kind of, like your, uh, uh, you know, pickup trucks and stuff like that, right? Those vehicles that you could put 350, 400,000 miles on it, no problem, right? That's the NH35. It's a workhorse movement. It's going to tell time. It's going to be accurate as long as you wear the watch or have a manual winder. If it does go dead after, 30 hours of its power reserve, all you got to do is just shake it up, give it a little shake, wear it on your wrist, give it a little wiggle. The rotor will start spinning and you're back in business. These are, like I said, workhorse movements. Obviously they sell them and people can brand them however they want, right? This has the TWSTEEL branding on it. I'm trying to get it where the glare's not all over the place, but there it is. So, you can see that obviously TWSTEEL branded the watch, which is fine. That's what watch people do. They buy the movement, they etch their own in on it. TWSTEEL didn't create the movement. They just borrowed it from Seiko, but they were smart enough to put in a movement that's going to be solid and do what it needs to do for many, many years. So, kudos to the brands for realizing that. With that being said, guys, this is my first Guns and Watches video. I'm going to post this to the Guns and Watches YouTube channel. That's where it's going to go. I'm going to obviously try to change some things in the background. Obviously, I can't do much because this is my studio for the One Fun Guy podcast, which next Thursday, I have Nick from Big Nick's Catering. And then on the 22nd, I have Francesca. So they will be my next two guests on the One Fun Guy podcast. But I'd like to have some guests on this, right? Have Greg come back and do the Guns and Watches channel, right? I used my One Fun Guy podcast as a platform, but all we did was talk about watches. Now I'd like to do this, right? So, with that being said, guys, I appreciate the love and support continued as always. If you see this, share it. This one was kind of rocky. I'll edit it a little bit. Obviously, there were some breaks in there where I was looking at some stuff. Next time, obviously, I'll be well prepared. I am going to try to switch platforms to do the screen and screen like YouTube does. I might just start going live from YouTube anyway, so that might be the thing that I do. So we'll see what happens, guys. We'll keep rocking and rolling with the One Fun Guy podcast. This is obviously now my Guns and Watches channel here on YouTube, so I'll link this video to that. I'll share it to both. Actually, I'll probably put it on my One Fun Guy podcast channel as well, just to get the cross things going. But this is it, guys. So I appreciate, again, all the continued love and support as always. Catch me Thursday night with Nick from Big Nick's Catering on the One Fun Guy podcast. This is my new Guns and Watches channel, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.